1 minute until showtime.
Yay! That was only about a 97. I think we can break 98 one more time. What do you think? One more time. Yay! Yeah, that's got it. We did it. Group effort.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, from the world's most famous beach, from where beach racing began, it's the Legends of Racing radio show. Live from racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill in Ponce Inlet, Florida. The Legends of Racing radio show. And your host, Buzz McKim.
Oh, boy. Hey, thank you very much. We're here with this guy over here. We're so glad to see you back again, Tony. And he's my co-host today, co-star. Straight man. You're my straight man. And I've been waiting all week for this show. Last week we had this gentleman on, and he was terrific. And we liked him so much we asked him to come back. And we've never done that with anybody before, to have somebody come back 2 weeks in a row. But I'll guarantee you're going to enjoy it. And this is Mr. Jim Donnelly, please.
Thank you.
Yeah. He's a writer par excellence. And I see Tony had mentioned this week that a good friend of ours, and I don't know if you knew him, Al Pierce, passed away. He was quite a writer, wasn't he?
He was quite a writer, and he was a very good man. Al and I spent a lot of time together in the media centers at Dover and Pocono and Charlotte and Martinsville and a couple times New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And his wife was actually native to my area.
Oh, really?
He met her. She was from Mount Holly, New Jersey, where I was raised. And she was a nurse at the local hospital, and he somehow met her through that.
Is that right?
And I don't recall her name off the top of my head, but I did meet her one time. Al was great, and one of the things that was great about him was that he was an old school journalist who believed in getting it right the first time.
There you
go. Be accurate, be fair, be true to what you are, respect your readers, and respect the people that you're writing about.
Yeah.
Al did all of that with everything he did.
Yeah. And then I was telling Tony about his charitable operations there, doing the helmets with the signatures, traveling all over the world to get that Formula One signature that he just couldn't find, and then he'd donate that helmet to charity. He's quite a guy.
He was, and he had a good time getting it, too, because he was usually doing it on his Harley.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you're from New Jersey?
I'm originally from Brooklyn, and I lived there. I grew up in a neighborhood called East New York, and for the benefit of the audience, if anybody here has ever seen the movie Goodfellas,
oh yeah,
there's a scene in the movie where some of the neighborhood wise guys threaten to stuff a mailman into a pizza oven for bringing notices to the school to Henry Hill's house. Well, I grew up about 6 blocks away from Henry Hill.
Really?
Yeah, and I was in that pizzeria.
Oh,
it was called Presto Pizza.
Really?
Yeah, and it was run by a guy named Paulie Vario, who you didn't want to. He was bad side you didn't want to get on.
Oh no.
But
you didn't criticize the pizza.
No, you didn't have to. It was very good.
Okay.
It was excellent. You don't get away with selling bad pizza in that neighborhood. But my father was working in Philadelphia. He was a maritime engineer with a Coast Guard license, Coast Guard master's license. And under federal law, whenever an oil tanker, owned by Gulf Oil in this case, loads or discharges cargo, you have to have an engineer with a master's license on board. So my father was commuting back and forth between Brooklyn and South Philadelphia, where Gulf ran a huge refinery back in those days, and it's still there under different ownership. And so in one day, I went from living in an apartment in Brooklyn to living in a tract house with a farm field behind me.
Oh, really?
And it was quite a shock.
I'll bet.
But when we were driving down to, just because we had never seen the house before my father bought it, so we're seeing all the, my mother and I are seeing all this for the first time. And when we were driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, there was a berm on the side of the road by exit 8 on the northbound lanes. And there they had a street-legal 1937 Ford Coupe just sitting up there on the berm,
Really?
lettered East Windsor Speedway.
Oh, boy.
Stock car races every Friday night. I had no idea that such a thing existed.
Is that right?
I thought stock car racing was NASCAR in the South.
Okay.
And I thought the rest of auto racing was drag racing in California and the Indianapolis 500 and Formula One Le Mans in Europe. I did not know there was such a thing as local auto racing in this country. My father ended up taking me there, and I was it was one of these moments in your life where you know your life is never going to be the same again.
Right.
That's how powerful it was for me. And then I actually got to see the modifieds and the Indy cars at Langhorne.
Oh, boy.
When it was paved. It was scary enough when it was paved.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that place must have been like when it was dirt.
It must have been outrageous.
And so I was raised in Lumberton, New Jersey, which is in South Jersey. It's exit 5 on the Turnpike in Burlington County. And I became a race fan there and a car enthusiast there and a journalist there.
Really?
Yeah, I worked in law enforcement for a little while, and then the editor of the local weekly newspaper lived in the same neighborhood, the same development as we did. And he said, well, he goes, "You're a college graduate, right?" I said, yeah, I am. And he goes, "Why don't you come in for a tryout?" And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Well, we'll send you out to cover something and see how you do." And I still remember my first story that I ever got published outside of a term paper or something like that was I covered a planning board meeting in Medford, New Jersey. And I was working for this weekly newspaper, and I came back to the office, and I wrote the story, and I handed it to the editor and say, "Well, do I get the job?" And I guess I did something right because he said yes. And that was kind of the start of my journey in this industry. That was in 1979. And here it is, 2025, and I'm still at it.
Yeah.
And I'm still very happy, and I'm still very grateful to have the right and the opportunity to keep the public informed.
Yeah.
Whether it's about motorsports or about something else that's a matter that's of concern to them. And I've always tried to live by the standards of be fair, be accurate, and as my first editor, Pinky Graw, told me, get it first, but first get it right.
Oh, there you go.
I learned very early on in my career that people's reputations were in my hand. And I can remember the first time I had to write a story about some local businessman that was charged with sex crimes against children.
Oh, man.
What would happen if you got that wrong?
Yeah.
What would happen to that guy?
Oh, boy.
What would happen to his family, what would happen to him professionally. So I've always kept that foremost in my consciousness, whether I was writing about a news story or writing about cars or auto racing, because it's all journalism. And you come to understand, or you should, that your words carry power, and they have the power to build and the power to destroy. So whether you're conscious of it or not, you better learn fast that you have an awful, awful lot of responsibility in this job.
Boy, that's an aspect of it I hadn't even thought about, to tell you the truth. And it goes with anything that you're writing about, whether it's racing or politics or whatever.
Absolutely. You want to be accurate, and you want to inform the public. You don't want to waste the reader's time, and you certainly don't want to waste the time of the person you just interviewed by getting it wrong.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
One of my common practices was, I'll give you an example. I was sent out to do a story on a beekeeper. Okay, they make honey.
Sure.
Okay, I like honey. Okay, I don't know anything about how it's made.
Yeah.
So they send me out. This guy's got a bunch of hives behind a liquor store across the street from my office. I didn't know it was there, and he's there, and he's pulling out these trays that actually have the honeycombs in them, and he's scooping raw honey out of it while these bees crawl all over him.
Yeah, geez.
And they're like, oh wow. But what do? You ask him a couple of questions. I say, explain to me what you're doing here, because I have no idea what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And 99% of the people that you run into in life as a journalist, when they hear that question, they're going to be overjoyed, because it gives them a chance to talk about something they know, and maybe nobody else does, which was certainly true in my case. And I applied that same standard to whether I was writing about beekeepers or people who trap snapping turtles in the pine barrens, or people who forecast thunderstorms and tornadoes, because the National Weather Service office for Philadelphia is actually located in West Hampton Township, New Jersey.
Oh, really?
I spent a lot of time there.
Yep.
Or a police chief or fire chief. And by getting it right and showing these people some level of interest and a desire to tell their stories, you build up a lot of goodwill.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still friends with a lot of people that I covered, even though we were technically adversaries. A lot of guys in policing, a lot of guys in local and state government up there. I'm still friendly with them to this day. So I guess I did my job right.
I guess, and you did very well, being a two-time Ken Purdy Award winner, which is pretty remarkable. One of only, 3 people?
I think so.
Yeah, that's great. So taking that attitude through your entire career, obviously you've done great things.
We're fortunate to live in a country where the free exchange of information is both practiced and legal. Okay, a lot of the world isn't like that.
Boy, that's the truth.
And so, since all of us were gifted with this right to speak and understand and communicate freely, I don't think we should take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I never do.
Yeah. Well, that's remarkable. I wish more writers would have that same attitude. There's so much junk out there. The media doesn't have a lot of credibility anymore.
That's true in some cases, yes. I won't dispute that.
Yeah.
Part of what's gone on is that the media, the career path that I took to get where I am no longer exists. There are no... The United States is essentially a news desert now as far as local coverage goes.
Oh, yeah.
Because the newspapers who existed, including the chain I worked for, in the Delaware Valley, their advertising all migrated to the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you bought a Saturday paper, what was in the paper? A lot of ads for car dealers and a lot of ads for real estate.
Yeah.
And they lost it all.
And we don't even have a Saturday paper in Daytona anymore.
No. The same company that took over the Daytona Beach News Journal is the one that took over my paper, the Burlington County Times.
Is that right?
Yeah, Gatehouse Communications, which is really a Wall Street hedge fund.
Oh, man. It does something.
But I try to be an optimist, and there's a great deal of hungering among society in general to know what's going on in their community and how the actions of local and state government affect them. Not just their pocketbook at tax time, but there are crucial issues around here like land use and storm mitigation and unchecked growth. And there has to be a forum to discuss that. And I think that the future that you're going to see, at least regarding newspapers, is that some of them are going to become nonprofits like the Texas Tribune.
Right.
And they'll be reader-supported rather than advertiser-supported. That is similar to what you're starting to see and have been seeing in the world of car magazines. We all grew up in the golden age of car magazines.
Yes, we did.
Where, you had a rack filled with like 60 or 70 titles.
Yeah.
I remember when they had 3 model car magazines.
Oh,
every
that's
month.
right.
And I know because I read them all. Well, in the old days, what you wanted to do is if Vic Edelbrock came out with a new intake manifold, he had to put an ad into Hot Rod or Carcraft or Rod and Custom, and you had to send in a coupon for a catalog and then make the order from there. Well, now what you do is you go to the Edelbrock website, you pull out your credit card, give them the right part number, and the thing's on your doorstep in 2 days.
That's right.
And that has affected car magazines as well.
A different world. Hey, we got a little bit of a break here. We'll be right back with Jim Donnelly, everybody.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. At Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees, it's all about making you happy. Beach Boys Embroidery can customize your athletic golf apparel, caps, hats, badges, buttons, magnets, backpacks, bags, totes, clocks, watches, and of course, T-shirts. Sure, they're at 2033 South Ridgewood Avenue in South Daytona, and they're waiting for you to call now. 386-255-5880. Beach Boys Embroidery and Tees. Let Aloha Marine get you on the water with huge discounts on great brands like Bayliner, Carolina Skiff, Hurricane, Key West, and Regal. Pay as little as $169 a month with 10% down and approved credit. Don't wait. Get to Aloha Marine, 1700 North Nova Road, Holly Hill, Monday through Saturday. 47 years and always better than boat show prices. We're back from where it all began, racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that, everybody. That's all right. We're back here with Jim Donnelly and my trusty sidekick, Tony. Yeah. Yes,
Jim, people can't see it, but your ring has cars on it. What is the story on that?
Okay, the story on this is that my fiancée, Sharon Rappaport, who's sitting right over there, we bought each other engagement rings. We're engaged. We're kind of like permanently engaged. And she bought me a ring, and I thought I had lost it, and I did not. We found it a couple of years later. But then she went out and bought me this one, and design on the ring is all dirt late models.
All right.
And I happen to be a late model fan, so I think it's pretty cool. And then in Sharon's case, I helped to. We went to and I don't know if it's all right to say this. We went to a jewelry store at the Daytona Beach Flea and Farm Market.
Oh, sure.
Did I get that right?
They're one of our sponsors.
Right.
Yep.
And we went there, and I got her a lovely. I don't recall what kind of stone it is, but it's a lovely ring, and this jewelry store does wonderful work, I might add. So we've had some work done there before, but it's nice to walk around with a stealth race fan ring on.
Oh, that's great.
That people kind of get the wrong idea about it, but that's all right. Because I'm happy to explain it to them.
Well, this segment is brought to you locally by the Staples and International Speedway Boulevard in Daytona Beach. Anything for the office, they can most definitely hook you up. And also, if you want to check out our show live, we've got we're on YouTube, the Legends of Racing Radio show on YouTube, and then an hour later we'll post the show on Facebook, so you can check us out either way. And what was the first article that you ever had published about racing, and who stood out at that time?
The first article that I can remember doing about racing was a feature for the sports section. They just gave me a little bit to write about, and I wrote a story about Flemington Speedway.
Oh boy!
And I wrote about how mostly every week Billy Pouch the great Billy Pouch hauls himself out of a dirt-splattered modified in Victory Lane after circling the track on the outside and passing other people up on the high side and banging his right rear wheel off this absolutely lethally dangerous wooden fence.
Oh yes, it reached out and drug cars in. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, it was incredible, and they liked it, and I sent a copy of it to Paul Cool, who was the promoter at Flemington. I said, because he gave me a season press pass, never asked a question. I say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And it turned out at their awards banquet that year, which I think was in about it might be about 1984 or something like that. But when they were giving out the trophies to the track champions in all the divisions, they also had a special award for Journalist of the Year.
Wow.
And I won it.
Holy
and so
cow.
I go up to Paul Cool's office in Flemington to get it. And it's this purple trophy that's this high off the ground, and it was really impressive because it had a plaque with my name on it and everything like that. But I went through shall we say, a series of domestic situations where the other party wasn't that impressed by it. And so one night, me and Sharon disassembled the trophy.
Oh, really?
And put it back together so it's about this high. So these stacks of vertical supports that make this thing, 5 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
We took them out, and now we can display it in the house.
Well, that's good.
Trying to think, because I mean, this thing, if you put plastic on either side, you could use it as an oar in a boat. Rode your way home.
Yeah, that Flemington was a heck of a racetrack. If anybody has ever seen it, they'll never forget it.
Oh, it was exciting.
Yeah, and if you never saw it, you really missed something special.
And I saw some great racing there. And they had, during the years I was there, they had an absolute top-tier modified field with usually like at least 35 cars on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
About 60 to 70 sportsmen.
Gee.
And usually about 30 late models.
Is that right?
And very often there would be a support division, including the URC Sprint Cars, the World of Outlaws ran there several times. USAC Silver Crown. That's how I got to meet Sheldon Kinzer.
Oh boy.
And ARDC Midgets, because
Yeah.
Paul Cool owned a really, really fast midget powered by a Pontiac Iron Duke engine.
Really?
Yeah, and he got Stan Plosky to drive it
Oh
for
boy,
him.
you couldn't get much better than that.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
So that was a lot of those races were raced for second. But you really got your money's worth when you went to a night at Flemington.
Oh, boy.
The only thing it took a long time because they started the rookie feature at 5:30,
Yeah.
and you were lucky if you were out of there by midnight.
That's right. And that track was just a stone's throw from the courthouse where they held the Lindbergh baby kidnapping trial. And that was in Flemington.
Sometimes I used to go there on the way up there, especially if I had a guest with me. We'd go into downtown Flemington, and there's a place there called the Union Hotel, which was where all the journalists stayed when they were covering the trial back in 1932. And excellent place to eat.
Really?
But they had all these historic photos of people who came there to cover the trial, like Haywood Hale Bruin,
Oh, boy.
and Dorothy Kilgallen, and all the people who were the upper tier of the media elite there, covering what was then the crime of the century.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. Yeah, so Flemington really grabbed your attention, didn't it?
Oh yeah, it was nothing else.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really did.
Really so
It was great action, great drivers, a great crowd, and a truly unique racetrack.
Well, now, how did you come about getting your position with Hemmings? 'Cause that's when I first heard about you. And I remember seeing your picture in there. I thought, that's a pretty good-looking guy.
We had good photographers.
Yes,
I tell
very
you.
good.
Well, I had been at the Burlington County Times for 22 years, and and the paper, like many others, was starting to struggle financially. So I figured it was better to try and look for another opportunity, not really knowing what that opportunity was. I went out and I was the finalist for a job at a hobby magazine in Wisconsin called
Really?
Fine Scale Modeler. And they picked a guy who they didn't have to move, who was already living in Wisconsin.
Oh, there you go.
So about a year later, I was on this website called journalismjobs.com, and Hemmings was advertising for an editor. So I read it over, and I said, well, let's see what happens. I'll send him a resume. I'll probably never hear back from him. I hear back from the editor-in-chief 2 days later.
Really?
And he wants me to come up for an interview.
Holy cow. And come up
and-
as Vermont, right?
Come up to Vermont. I
Yeah.
said, well, when do you want me up there? He goes, can you be here Monday? This is on Friday. Okay. I said, yeah, I guess I'll take a day off. So I took one of my press cars because I wrote a weekly road test feature at the paper for 22 years. I remember it was a Hyundai Santa Fe. And we drove up there, and we were driving around, and the weekend we were up there, there was a series of huge brush fires north of the border in Quebec, and the smoke had wafted down all over New England, so you couldn't even see the mountains or anything like that. So I'm telling my late wife, I'm there like, I said, I'm not working here. Look at this. There's nothing here. And she goes, you know what? She goes, you're going to get an offer from these people.
Yeah.
So I go in for my interview on Monday, and the editor, who, like me, was a former Brooklynite, and the publisher interviewed me, and we drove back down to South Jersey, and when I got home, there was a message on my voicemail offering me the position.
No kidding. Just like that.
Just like that.
So they were pretty impressed with what they saw.
Yeah, I guess. I remember I gave them, for clips, a story, an interview I did with Grumpy Jenkins.
Oh, boy.
At his shop.
Wow. That's cool.
I gave him a story I did on the history of sprint car racing.
Really?
In Pennsylvania, and why it was worth going to see from South Jersey. Because by that time I was driving out there every Friday night to go to Williams Grove.
Oh, boy. What a racetrack that was.
Yeah,
or
it was
is. I think
wonderful.
it's still running, aren't
It
they?
was one. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Most
Yeah.
definitely. It's
Interesting.
hallowed ground.
Yeah.
And I guess they liked what they saw. I remember the publisher Jim Minetto asked me. He goes, "Well, you've been at your company for 22 years. Why are you applying here?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, or I said, excuse me. I said, "Look," I said, "nobody has ever posted a vacancy like this before in my entire career." I said I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I didn't at least apply for
Yeah.
this.
There you go.
And once I did,
Can you hold that? Can you hold that for a second? We got a real quick break,
go ahead.
and we'll be right back with Jim Donnelly, everybody. And Bill Cushion has a question. All right.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Racing's original North Turn is our broadcast headquarters. If you're looking for a good drink, great entertainment, and the best in food, they're right on the beach at Racing's original North Turn. Come on down to dinner tonight. Here are a couple of testimonials. These are actual testimonials from people who have enjoyed the North Turn. Been there many times, always great food and drinks, great location on the beach. And another, what a great experience. It's my new favorite restaurant in the Daytona Beach area, Racing's original North Turn on South Atlantic Avenue. That's A1A in Ponce Inlet, about 3.2 miles south of the Dunlawton Bridge and A1A intersection. It's Racing's original North Turn, a restaurant, museum, bar, gift shop, live music. That's Racing's North Turn. Racing's original North Turn has been voted by you Best Beach Bar Top 10 year after year after year. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim.
Hey, alrighty, thank you. Appreciate that, Owen. Thank you. And this is brought to you locally by the Daytona Flea and Farmers Market, voted one of the top 5 markets in the country by USA Weekend. And visit our Shop Now network and our Shop Now at Daytona Flea and Farmers Market Facebook page for the latest in vendor tours. And we got a glowing testimony from Jim here on the jewelry store out there.
Excellent.
So it's something to think about, yeah. And Mr. Bill Cushion, you're back. What a nice surprise.
I'm back.
There you go.
Hey, Jim, thank you for being here. You had some buzzwords there that I recognized. I think exit 8 is Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Exit 8 is Heightstown. Exit 7 is Fort Dix.
Okay, well, seeing I lived in New Jersey for 6 months there, I feel akin to New Jersey, but anyway. I'm a modified and late model guy from New England, and we used to have a pilgrimage every year to go to Trenton to watch those cars down there. That was the thing you had to do, as well as send you people like, Rainey Charlan, and then later on Richie Evans. We go down there and clean everybody's clock for them. Mm-hmm. My question to you, I've always wondered why, and maybe somebody has and I don't know about it, to compile a book about closed, forgotten racetracks. Now, Junior has just done Rockingham. They spent all the money. In Massachusetts, there's 3 or 4 or 5 tracks that are gone, lost and gone forever. And I'm sure every state has some. But what a book that would be for walking down a memory lane as they get some clippings and some advertisements and some scoring sheets of some of these tracks that no longer exist. How does that sound? A big project?
It's a huge project because you wouldn't know where to cut it off. Like, for example, would you include drag strips in that book? Because there are a couple of books in existence on lost drag strips right now. Those books have already been published. So, and by the way, let's give a shout out to the fact that Wild Bill Slater won the National Open at Langhorne.
Absolutely, in that V8.
So there's a New England guy for you.
Oh,
right
yeah, Wild
there.
Bill. I knew Wild Bill.
The challenge of doing a book is twofold. The first one is you have to find a publisher. And the publisher is going to want to know, or at least have a general idea of how many copies of the book he's going to sell, because that's going to determine how many copies of the book he's going to print. And To do a story on defunct or a book on defunct racetracks in the United States, assuming you could get the photos, okay, would be a huge book. It would necessarily be hundreds of pages long because there are hundreds of tracks to write about, and I think you would want to have at least a page or two of text on each one recounting its history and what made it unique and who raced and won there. I would love to take on a project like that, but I can see that you would have a problem selling it to a publisher just because of the sheer volume of work that's involved in it. Most book publishers today do what's called custom publishing, and that means that the subject of the book often puts up the money himself to cover the cost of producing it. I don't know if I should call it a verbal agreement. I think that's pushing it a little too far. But I have talked to some members of the Agajanian family in Los Angeles. I've had the opportunity to meet several of them, and they're still highly active in the sport. What I would like to do is a story on the family that goes back to when J.C. Agajanian came over here from Armenia with not $1 in his pocket and not a word of English in his vocabulary, and still managed to make a huge success of himself and to win the Indianapolis 500 as a car owner. And I would like to do that, but the family is going to have to put up the money to get it done. And we're not at the stage yet where everybody in the family is willing to participate, which is absolutely vital. And then we can talk about finances. I hesitated for a second there because a couple of years ago, I had a contract with a company called, a handshake contract with a company called Racemaker Press in Boston. This is Joe Freeman's company, okay? And he gave me a $4,000 advance to do a story on the Meyer family. Louis Meyer, first guy to win the Indianapolis 500 3 times. First driver awarded the pace car as part of his winnings. First driver to drink the milk in Victory Lane. Through subsequent generations of the family, built and developed the turbocharged Offenhauser engine. Had every car in the field powered by their engines, etc. What I ran into, and I'm just being honest, was that the members of the Meyer family would not cooperate. One, I guess I can get away with saying this. Sonny Meyer, who was Louis Meyer's son, his son Butch didn't want his father to be in the book. Well, how can you do that? The guy built the Offenhauser engine for 40 years, okay? And then his father said, I don't want my son in the book because he doesn't like my wife.
Oh,
and if you put him in it, I'll sue you.
Oh, Lord.
So what I had to do, when I heard all this, I walked away from it. I hadn't actually told Joe Freeman what was going on, but I explained to him in an email that the project wasn't viable because the family won't participate, and I gave him back every cent of the advance he gave me. I even paid for my own plane ticket to go to Indiana.
Right?
I paid for that out of my own pocket.
I'll be darned.
It's really too bad that personalities get involved with things. I guess I'm back to that's why a racetrack is personality in itself. The only thing I want to capture, people like Buzz and Mike Joy, who we all know, was the announcer of Riverside Speedway, and that's gone. And while we still have people that have gone to these racetracks that are now gone, boy, we're going to lose all of that. And I don't know, I guess I count on fellows like yourself that can put these pieces together to maybe generate some interest in it. But
Yep.
there again, thank you for being here, Jim. I appreciate your
Yeah,
knowledge.
it's not about a lack of interest or a lack of effort. It is about a lack of money.
Yeah, isn't that a terrible thing? It comes down to money.
Yep.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah,
You're
take care,
welcome.
Bill. The funny thing about J.C. Agajanian, he had hog farms and he had a garbage business, and he used to feed the garbage to the hogs.
Mm-hmm.
And his business card said J.C. Agajanian, used food dealer.
And you know, Ascot Park, the great Ascot Park, which
Right.
I thankfully was lucky enough to see when it was running.
Mhm.
That was a wild night of sprint car racing.
Yeah.
I saw John Andretti launch a sprint car right through one of the billboards between
Wow.
turn 3 and 4.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
But that track was built on landfill,
Oh, really?
and it was a dump that where Aggie would drop refuse. He had a commercial pickup business that went all around the South L.A. area, like the Baytown, the towns in and around like Long Beach and Gardena and places like that. He had the trash pickup contract for those towns, and when Ascot closed, everybody said that it was because they lost their lease. Well, Carrie Agajanian told me that wasn't true. The problem was that nobody wanted to do a site remediation on the location where the track is sat. So that track is still sitting there today
Is that right?
on that dump, which is undeveloped.
Holy
And
cow.
it'll probably remain that into perpetuity.
Jeez. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Jim Donnelly, everybody. Hey.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing Radio Show. Welcome to Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. Best variety. Daytona International Speedway, the airport, One Daytona, Florida's newest entertainment and retail destination, and of course, the world's most famous beach. You'll love our newly remodeled 1 and 2 bedroom suites, along with our restaurant, King snack shacks. You won't need your full kitchen, as Homewood Suites Daytona serves up complimentary breakfast and evening social. It's like home away from home. Go to HomewoodDaytona.com for Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. Oasis. The market is open every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and is 90% undercover, so you can shop rain or shine. Beach Bar never a charge for the parking or admission. Enjoy our monthly classic cars cruise-in on the first Saturday of every month, and garage sale weekend, the third weekend of every month. See all we have to offer at DaytonaFleaMarket.com or like us on Facebook. Discover Daytona's most unique shopping experience, the Daytona Flea and Farmers Market, just a mile west of the Speedway. We're back from where it all began, racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim.
Thank you, everybody. We're here with Tony and with Jim. And this segment is being brought to you locally by Homewood Suites by Hilton over on Bill France Boulevard, around the corner from the Speedway. And they have complimentary breakfast and complimentary happy hour. You can't get any better than that. A complimentary happy hour. That's pretty darn good. And every room's a suite, and they're nice people, and it's a good place. So think about that next time you have someone come to town. You were fortunate enough to interview Mr. Carroll Shelby. Is that right? What kind of experience was that?
I interviewed him very briefly at the SEMA show in Las Vegas.
Right.
For the benefit of anybody who hasn't heard of it, SEMA it stands for Specialty Equipment Market Association, and they represent the entire U.S. North American automotive aftermarket, which is about a $50 billion business. And Hemmings Motor News was an exhibitor at that show, so I saw they were having a media availability with old Shell. So I said, okay, let me go talk to him. I didn't talk to him long. I talked to him for about 5 minutes, but we talked a little bit about his health because he had a heart transplant. And I asked him, what do you think about how your Cobras are doing today, your continuation cars? And he said, oh, we're very happy with it, and I'm glad people still remember the cars. And it ended up in kind of a reporter's notebook story that I did about people I met at SEMA. And on that trip, it also included Mario Andretti.
Oh, there you go.
So I had an opportunity with him. I had an opportunity with Jack Roush, and I didn't get an opportunity with this guy, but I saw Hulk Hogan walking around there.
He's a car guy.
Yeah, he is. The other element of SEMA is called PRI, stands Performance Racing Industry.
Yeah.
They have an adjunct that's all hard racing parts, and I write for their magazine. It's called PRI Magazine. I'm usually in pretty much every issue. One of the more recent stories I wrote was about the phenomenon of super late model racing and how it's becoming a training ground for guys headed to NASCAR.
Oh, yes.
And I actually, getting that, I got a phone call. My phone rings. I pick it up. I said, hello. And he goes, I hear on the other end, this is Christopher Bell.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So because he went right from midgets into that. TRD put him right into a super late model.
Right.
With this guy named Ronnie Douglas, I believe his name is. He's in Oklahoma City, and he runs like he's got a stable of like 7 or 8 super lates.
Really?
And puts a lot of people in for training purposes. And I got to interview a lot of really interesting people in my time at Hemmings and since then. Roger Penske.
Oh, boy.
I interviewed him and his coach at Indianapolis on Carb Day. The hot rod pioneer Ed Iskandarian.
Oh, no kidding.
Who is still with us at age 103.
Jeez, amazing.
Mario Andretti on several occasions.
Yeah, boy, he's a prince.
He is a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy.
He did me a big favor when I was with NASCAR.
He did?
Oh, big favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he's been on the show a couple times, too.
Really?
Yeah, he's been on our show.
Okay. Richard Petty.
Yeah.
Okay. He has a business called Petty's Garage, which is in the old shop in Level Cross.
Yep.
The weekend Hurricane Sandy hit, I jumped on a plane, flew down here, shot some cars. All the weather mess stayed east of I-95, and I went to Level Cross, and I had a great conversation with him about how did you get into this business. And he goes, well, the racing has wound down a little bit, so we have the shop here, and we're trying to find a new use for it. And he was building and modifying new Challengers and Camaros and Coyote-powered Mustangs. So I'm in his office with him, and Richard reaches into his desk and pulls out a yam.
A yam?
A yam, a sweet potato, okay? And he starts eating it. And I'm still there talking about, winning 10 straight in 1967. I'm just looking for him. And he's and finally I couldn't hold back any longer. I said, hey, Your Majesty. I said, I never saw anybody do this before. And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, this is how you eat a yam. He goes, it's you Yankees who want to cook them. He goes, this is how you do it. And he polished it off, too.
Oh,
I said, no wonder you have teeth that are as great as they are if you've been doing this your whole life. He goes, oh, yeah.
But he is another first-class guy.
Yes, he is.
And what you see is what you get. There's no sinister Richard Petty or Richard Petty behind the scenes.
These guys are all national treasures as far as I'm concerned.
They sure are.
Anytime you go up to the museum, there's a bell when you come in the door. And within a few minutes, he's coming out of the office to talk to you.
Amazing. Isn't that amazing?
I mean, he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they do a beautiful job.
one of the people I got to interview for Tazio is I did because a lot of people in Europe don't know who he is. I did a really in-depth profile of Don Garlitz.
Oh yeah, I was going to ask you about Don.
And
right.
He's marvelous. He just had a birthday. He's 93 now.
Is he really?
And he is deaf, so the way you talk to him is you sit next to him, and he's got his smartphone in front of him, and he's got a translation program on it where
really?
it listens to your voice and then prints out a text in front of him.
Huh.
So the conversation just rolls.
I'll be darned.
But he told me what it was like to grow up on a dairy farm in Florida in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Detroit. I'm sorry. I didn't even know Florida had a dairy industry.
Oh yeah, for sure. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Jim and with Tony.
The caution flag is out. Time for a break. We'll be right back with the Legends of Racing radio show. Welcome to Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. You're right in the middle of all the action. Daytona International Speedway, the airport, One Daytona, Florida's newest entertainment and retail destination, and of course, the world's most famous beach. You'll love our newly remodeled 1- and 2-bedroom suites, along with our popular King Studios. You won't need your full kitchen, as Homewood Suites Daytona serves up complimentary breakfast and evening social. It's like home away from home. Go to HomewoodDaytona.com for Homewood Suites by Hilton in Daytona Beach. We're back from where it all began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. The Legends of Racing radio show continues with your host, Buzz McKim.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that. Coming down the old home stretch here and talking about Don Garlitz and what another treasure. You talk about treasures. These guys are just phenomenal. The Andretti's and the Petties and even the Foyts. Have you ever interviewed Foyt?
No. I tried to interview him for Speed Sport, and I can't even remember what the actual nature of the story was, but I got in touch with Ann Fenoro, who's his PR person, and I never got a response, but AJ is, I believe he's 90 years old now.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, he may not have the withal to deal with a lot of media inquiries, which, like he used to. Well, in the past, he didn't deal with them at all. Usually,
he didn't do a very good job.
But as you may know, he doesn't go to all the races anymore,
right.
and things such as that nature. And he's got some lingering physical issues that deal with, in no particular order, breaking his back at Riverside. Having a bulldozer roll over on top of him, getting attacked by a swarm of killer bees,
right.
and crashing his Indy car into an embankment that shattered both his legs when he was probably about 60 years old.
Yep, then he's got that arm. His one arm doesn't work quite right.
No,
he wrecked at Michigan.
Yes, yeah, he doesn't. He's got a lot of physical problems. I would have loved to have interviewed him just to, if for no other reason, tell him that he's one of the people I've admired most in the sport during my association with it. I own all 4 of his Indy winners as die-cast models.
Do you really?
Yes, I do. He's one of the ones that got away, but some of the people I got to know through newspapers and through Hemmings were really rewarding. One guy I would like to really single out is Ray Evernham.
Oh boy, yeah.
Okay, now he is a local boy.
That's right. He's a Jerseyite.
He's from Hazlitt.
Yeah.
Okay, he raced at Wall Stadium where I saw a lot of races. I saw Ray in a modified there.
Did you there?
I saw him win in a modified there. And Ray is involved in a lot of activities, many of which have to do with historic preservation of both race cars and cool street cars.
Yeah.
And I think he's a terrific individual and an inspiration. Another guy I'd like to point out is I haven't interviewed him that often because he's usually like me, as the guy who's doing the interviews,
Right.
is our friend Tom Cotter.
Oh, boy.
I got to
Yeah.
know him when he was running Cotter Communications. Okay, so that's how far back I go. And he's now a guy who is, like me, a miner for the truth in the world of automotive history.
Yeah.
And he does a phenomenal job locating these lost cars, and in many cases getting them to a state of restoration where other people can enjoy them.
Oh, he's one of my heroes.
Tom's a great guy.
Yeah. Now, you're involved with something called Tazio. Could you tell us about that?
Tazio is what is a car magazine is probably becoming now in general. It's a very high-end quarterly. It runs to about 200 pages quarterly on very heavy stock paper. It's produced in Belgium, and it's a quarterly journal of international auto racing history. And I won my second Ken W. Purdy Award for a story that I wrote for their Le Mans issue. I should also add that they are a licensed publication from the ACO, which organizes Le Mans, the race, the Automobile Club de l'Ouest. I did the story on the involvement of a great engineer named Roy Lunn in the GT40 process, and one of the great iconic historic moments in American auto racing history was when Ford first won Le Mans in a 1-2-3 sweep in 1966.
Yes.
When I was 10 years old and watching it on ABC's Wide World
Oh,
of
really?
Sports. Yep. And so I had an opportunity. The GT40 story has been told many times, both in book and magazine form, but none of them have ever looked at the role that Roy Lunn played in it. Lunn was a really gifted engineer who worked for the Ford Motor Company and was the designer of the very first Ford Mustang prototype.
Really?
From 1962, which is a mid-engine car and had a V4 engine behind the occupants that later went into the German Ford Taunus.
Okay.
Okay. The work that Lund did on that project led him to become Ford's Special Vehicles Team's administrator under Henry Ford II.
Right.
And long story short, what he ultimately did was he took the GT40 race project away from John Wyer in England, who later went on to win the 24 Hours for Porsche, the famous Gulf Porsches. And he gave it to a consortium of people which included Shelby American and Holman Moody. Without Roy Lund making those managerial changes, I guarantee the GT40 would have never won a race.
One of the real unsung heroes, huh?
Most definitely.
I'll be darned.
Most definitely.
That's amazing. We have some folks we have to say thank you to and hello to. We've got Danny over here on the board doing a fantastic job, and we got Mike with his ever-present applause sign. We're going to put your name in for a raise there, Mike, okay? And it's so good to see Bill Cushion back for a few weeks and his friends that he brought, Kevin and Brenda. And Sharon, so good of you to come today. Yeah, she is the muse to Mr. Donnelly here. And Doc Batzler, our really good friend, he brought some friends from Indiana over here. They were sitting at that table there with those two fine-looking young men. Yeah, and three. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Three fine-looking young men. There you go. And Big Mike, good to see you back again. And we just thank you so much for being here. And we thank Jim for coming back again.
My pleasure.
We interrupted your week again, didn't we?
No, you didn't.
No? Okay. Now remember,
always a pleasure.
How does one get in touch with Tazio? Can they get it online?
You can get it online by going to taziomagazine.com, or if you happen to be in the area, you can stop by either Books A Million at the Volusia Mall or Barnes & Noble at Tomoka Town Center, and I know they sell single copies at both those places.
Oh, good.
They have a distribution agreement in the United States now.
Oh, that's super. Yeah, it's a magnificent book. I mean, it's a keepsake. It's more than just a magazine.
They call it a book zine.
Yeah, book zine? Yeah,
yes.
That's about right. What's the cover price on that, do you know?
About $15.
Really? But it's worth it.
That's what it's going to be from now on for a car magazine, folks. I hate to tell you, it's going to become a luxury item.
Yeah, well, I've got all those golden issues from years ago in my library, and
you are a lucky man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
my mother threw all my stuff out when I went to college.
Oh, jeez. That's a shame. But you loved her anyway, though, didn't you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I let it go.
Yeah. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
The Legends of Racing radio show originates live from the very spot where beach racing began. Racing's original North Turn Beach Bar and Grill. Join us next time for the Legends of Racing radio show and your host,